Hello students, good day. This is a pre-recorded lesson discussion for the subject Introduction to World Religions and Belief Systems. Okay, for this discussion, I'm going to tackle the lesson Introduction to and Basic Teachings of Hinduism. Okay, lesson objectives. At the end of the lesson, the students will be able to discuss the creation story in Rig Veda, identify the major Hindu deities as well as their corresponding functions or power, and explain the core teaching of Hinduism is the attainment of liberation in the identification of Atman and Brahman through the four yogas. Right. With more than 1 billion followers, Hinduism is the world's third largest religion by population after Christianity and Islam. It is the dominant religion in India, Nepal, and Mauritius, and has a significant number of followers in Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Bali, Indonesia. So, unlike most other religions that are being practiced in the world, Hinduism has no single founder. It has no single scripture and no commonly agreed set of teachings. Thus, Hinduism referred to not as a single religion, but it is a way of life, or it is a family of religions. Defining Hinduism. The term Hinduism became familiar as a designator of religious ideas and practices distinctive to India. So which means that Hinduism is mostly associated to or attributed to the culture of India. Hindu, the root word of Hinduism, is derived from the Sanskrit word Sindhu, which means to the river in the Indus Valley. Example, the Indus River. Initially, the word Hindu was an outsider's term. Early Muslims used it to describe the people and culture of India and to distinguish the Muslims from non-Muslims. So, at the time, non-Muslims were called as Hindus. Especially referred to the people in India. While Hinduism is a popular term among outsiders, the Hindus do not accept the term to refer to their religion. They prefer to call their religion Sanatana Dharma, which means the everlasting law. The concept of Dharma, or teachings, which is central to the Hindu worldview, speaks not just about religious obligations, but of social and cultural obligations. So, Hinduism, for people who practice such religion, do not accept the term, which refers to the religion. But the one being called to their religion, the term is Sanatana Dharma. It means the everlasting law. And Hinduism is not just about the religious practices being adhered by the adherents of this specific religion. But the thing is, it refers to the teachings that they need to follow or the obligations they need to perform in social and in cultural aspects. Origins and growth of Hinduism. Hinduism originated around the Indus Valley near the Indus River, present-day Pakistan, about 3,000 years ago with the migration of the Aryans from Persia to India. The Aryans settled along the banks of Indus Valley, bringing their own cultural and religious habits, which later developed in a system. So the Aryans, we say Aryans, these are ancient people who live in the Middle East. The Aryans believed in deities and offered sacrifices to honor them, which means that they have similarities with animism. Their worship to gods and goddesses or deities. So they offer sacrifices. They use animals as their sacrificial offerings, and These beliefs and practices heavily influence the core religious traits and the characteristics of Hinduism. Characteristics of Hinduism. As mentioned earlier, Hinduism is diverse as it is composed of different traditions and beliefs. However, despite the pluralistic nature of their traditions, Hindus are identified by the following. Okay. Remember, Hinduism is not an exclusive religion, but an inclusive one, meaning they are they are welcome to the or they welcome the other traditions and beliefs of people from other religions, because they believe that Hinduism is not just a religion but it is a way of life. Okay, we have the Vedas as the source of Hindu belief. Okay, for the first characteristic of the Hinduism, we have the Vedas as a source of Hindu belief. The Vedas are the earliest among the sacred Hindu texts. Although not all Hindus give the same value to these texts, they all attest to the centrality of the Vedas to Hinduism. So, which means that Vedas is the source of the teachings and beliefs of Hinduism. It is the sacred scripture of this religion. Next is belief in karma and reincarnation. Okay, Hindus believe that life is an endless cycle. Whatever one has done in this life has a corresponding reward or punishment in the next life. The two principles go hand in hand in the sense that every being is reincarnated and will receive his or her karma. These two concepts, the karma and reincarnation, are two interrelated aspects in Hinduism, because they believe that life is an unending cycle. Meaning, if you die, after that you will be reincarnated. You will live again. But the kind of life that you're going to live on your next life will depend on the previous life that you have lived. And that's what we call the karma. What goes around comes around. And belief in a social class system known as caste. So the caste system, which is traditionally called Varnashrama, is a guide that systematizes the social order of hierarchical ordering of groups in a society. Meaning, Hinduism has a known system in their society, which is the caste system. It's the social stratification in their culture, meaning there's hierarchy of the status or level of status of the people. We have the Dalits, the Shudras, the Vaishyas, the Kshatriyas, and the Brahmins. So at the top of the caste system or the social strata are the Brahmins. They are priests and teachers. And on the second level, the Kshatriyas, these people are warriors and rulers. And the Vaishyas, these are farmers, traders, and merchants. And we have a second to the last, the Shudras, or they are the laborers. And you have the Dalits, or the outcast, street sweepers, or latrine cleaners. Others suggest more detailed criteria as to what constitutes a Hindu religion. Stephen Rosen, a respected scholar of Hinduism, added the following principles. First, belief in one all-pervasive supreme reality, or the Brahman. It manifests as both an impersonal force, or also called as the Brahman, and as a personal divinity, which means that known by various names according to whichever particular tradition one adheres to. So in Hinduism, they believe that there's a supreme reality which is called the Brahman. And belief in the cyclical nature of time. So there are world ages that repeat themselves like seasons. So um, I remember the one that I mentioned earlier, the karma and reincarnation. It's a belief of an ending cycle of life. So it's the same thing with this principle or characteristic. There's a cyclical nature of time. The same with the seasons, like there's spring, summer, fall, winter, then spring again, then summer, fall, winter. It's a never ending cycle, just like the seasons of time. Then belief in alternate realities with higher beings. God and His manifold manifestations, who can be accessed through temple worship, ritual sacraments, and prayers. So they believe that there are higher beings, or they believe that there are gods and goddesses or deities, and the adherents of Hinduism can interact with these gods and goddesses when they worship in temple, when they perform rituals, sacrificial offerings, when they perform prayers. And there's belief in enlightened masters or gurus, exemplary souls who are fully devoted to God and who act as a conduit for others to reach Him. So the same with other religions. They have priests, just like pastors. These are the enlightened ones in Hinduism. They can mediate people with God. Then belief in non-aggression and non-injury, or ahimsa, as a way of showing love to all creatures. This includes the idea of the sacredness of all life and its concomitant universal compassion. Meaning, Hinduism believe that it's very important to not be aggressive. Do not harm other people. You should be compassionate. You should live a harmonious life with one another. We should be good to the nature. That's the belief of Hinduism. Then believe that all revealed religion revealed through divine intervention, not by reason. That is, God directly revealing Himself through prophets, sages, and the like are essentially correct. So remember the one that I mentioned earlier, that Hinduism is an inclusive religion, meaning they welcome other people's religion and belief systems. And they believe that these religions are true if they are being revealed by divine intervention through prophets, sages, and others. And these religions are not established by logical thinking, rather by divine intervention. Belief that all living being is first and foremost a spiritual entity. So all living being have soul, spirit, and that the spiritual pursuit is consequently the essence and real purpose of life. Since their belief is that all living being is a spiritual being, then the very purpose of life is to live a spiritual life, the pursuit of spirituality. Then the sacred texts, or the Vedas. While Jesus Christ and Muhammad are the founders of Christianity and Islam, respectively, Hinduism does not have any single individual as its founder. Instead, its foundation is based on the earliest sacred text called Veda. So, there is no known founder or person who established Hinduism, unlike other religions, such as in Christianity, which is founded by Jesus Christ. Muhammad founded the Islam. So, it's different in Hinduism because there's no known founder of this religion. But their teachings, their beliefs, their systems are based on their sacred text, which is called the Vedas. The Vedas are sometimes called Shruti, which means that which is heard, meaning it is being revealed. Shruti texts are teachings handed down or given to seers or rishis directly from the divine and are therefore considered divinely revealed text. Hindus believe that the contents of the Vedas are divinely inspired and are thus a sacred and authoritative guide in dealing with life. So they believe that it is a divine revelation from someone, which is the higher or supreme being, being revealed to the one who authored the Vedas. The term Vedas means knowledge. The Vedas are collections of teachings on religious rituals, poetry, formulas, beliefs, and explanatory prose. They are divided into four major parts: the Rig Veda, Samaveda, Yajur Veda, and Athanu Veda. We say Rig Veda. The Rig Veda collection is composed of hymns to gods and goddesses. It is composed of 1,028 hymns subdivided into 10 books or mandala, which each book was written by sages of priestly caste. So the names of various deities, both male and female, appear in the Rig Veda. So it contains the deities, the various deities of Hinduism. And there are almost 33 deities being mentioned and venerated in the Rig Veda, or considered as holy or sacred. And the prominent ones, or the known ones, are Indra, Suma, Agni, Varuna, and Mitra. The Samaveda is a collection of songs based on the Rig Veda. Okay, the songs are to be sang or recited according to the instructions composed by the sages in the said Veda. And we have the Yajur Veda. It is composed of short prose and verses or mantras used in rituals. And lastly, the Atharva Veda. It is composed of magical formulas and hymns related to daily life. Right, the first three Vedas are basically used for sacrificial rituals. The Rig Veda, Samaveda, and Yajur Veda. These are used for sacrificial rituals, typical in Aryan tribes or Aryan traditions. While the Atharva Veda, it contains instructions regarding to the ordinary concerns, such as warding off harmful spirits and curing diseases and snake bites. Rig Veda contains a hymn for the Hindu deity Agni, the god of fire. It will give you an idea on how the sacred text values gods and goddesses. So, this is one of the most known or most popular hymn in Hindu about the deity Agni, the god of fire. And another deity venerated and praised in the Rig Veda is Indra. Almost a quarter of the entire Veda is dedicated to him. Indra is known as a protector and a slayer. So, Indra is one of the most prominent deities in the Rig Veda. Each Vedic collection has 4 subcategories: the Samhitas, Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and Upanishads. The Samhitas is a collection of verses, hymns, and chants. And the Brahmanas are commentaries to avoid any improper performance of the rituals as contained in the Vedas. Brahmanas, they provide information and knowledge, understanding of the objectives or aims of the Vedic ritual, so that adherents will not perform wrongly. the rituals contained in the Vedas. The Aranyakas, or forest treaties, supply further commentaries on the rites and ritual performances contained in the Brahmanas. And the fourth, and the last one, is the Upanishads, or private session, which contain further explanation of and elaboration on the ideas not adequately explained in the Aranyaka. So, Upanishads are a supplement to the things that are not properly explained in Aranyakas. And the Upanishads. The Upanishads try to inquire and speculate about the philosophical explanation on the nature of deities. These texts, developed from the Vedic tradition, largely reshaped Hinduism by providing its believers with philosophical knowledge, which means that it is not just about the practices, rituals that the Hindus are not obliged to perform. Rather, it also gives them philosophical views or wisdom. Among the Vedas, the Upanishads have a mystical aura as they deal with problems or deepest concern to human beings, such as death and how to live, the purpose and meaning of life, the nature of God and the beginning of the universe, and the relation of death to life. So they also contain teachings that cannot be easily grasped, meaning cannot be easily understood by many people, especially those outsiders of the religion. They are considered as worthy by the sages and seers to be taught to the students who have understood the earlier Vedas. So there's deeper implications of the Upanishads. The Upanishads serve as a concluding portion or the end of the Vedas. Since their primary purpose is to explain the centrality and meaning of the Vedas, they synthesize the questions and answers on the mysteries a human being faces. So, which means that earlier Vedas speak about ritualistic performances and proper sacrifices, as well as viewing death as simply going to the heavens. So, Upanishads discuss the three major paths of Hinduism as the concepts of Atman, Moksha, and Brahman. And we have the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita, or simply the Gita, which is also called Song of the Blessed Lord, is part of the sixth book of India's longest epic, the Mahabharata. It was written in the 4th century BCE and contains profound and meaningful spiritual insights useful in cultivating and revitalizing one's spiritual life. Okay, the Gita consists of 700 verses that narrate the story of Arjuna and his chariot driver Krishna. The deities and worship in Hinduism. Okay, the worship of deities is one of the most misunderstood aspects of Hinduism. The misunderstanding comes from the lack of proper context of Hindu worship. Hindus use images of gods made of various materials and avatars. Okay, the incarnations of a deity in human or animal form to counteract some particular evil in the world. That's the various materials and avatars represent. The use of images and statue-like forms allows them to have an easy access to their deities because they believe such deities are beyond the capacity of the senses. In Hinduism, they do not just believe that the images from various materials and avatars are just representations or venerations of their deities. But they also believe that the deities dwell inside those images. Meaning, it's not just a representation, but the manifestation of the deities and gods and goddesses in Hinduism. Hindus regard deities in two ways. First, the statue, since it projects the image of a deity, ceases to be a mere statue made of stone or marble. It becomes an embodiment of the divine. As what I have mentioned earlier, the images or the statues of the deities are not just the representation of those deities, but they're the embodiment, meaning they become the temple of the deities, the manifestation of the deities. Second, the image is considered a divine descent that the deity entrusts to human care. Therefore, believers have to respond properly by showing respect and reverence to the image, meaning people should pay a high regard of respect to the images, since those deities are being entrusted to human beings. Among the major religions of the world, Hinduism is best described as a religion that has no religion. It has no religion in the sense that it does not limit or see itself as an exclusive system, but an inclusive one. What I have mentioned earlier, it's inclusive since it welcomes other religions, since they believe that all religions that are revealed through divine intervention or divine revelation are true. Essential components of a person. The Atman. The Atman, or the true self, refers to the innermost spiritual property of the individual, which is distinct from the mind, intellect, ego, or the object self or stream of consciousness. Okay. The Atman is discovered through self-exploration and self-analysis, in which the person is able to introspect to find what is in the core of his or her being. That is, what lies beneath the layers of his or being, the mind, intellectual, and ego. Which means that the Atman or true self is distinct from other aspects of the person. And we need to introspect within ourselves in order to find or know our true self, or the Atman. And the Brahman. Brahman means the great or the supreme. The concept of Brahman explains the Hindu understanding of the nature of ultimate reality. For Hindus, Brahman is the cosmic principle, the origin of one's life or existence. Which means that Brahman is regarded as the highest form of concept in self-understanding. It is the ultimate reality for Hindus. And it is regarded as the great one or the supreme because one's life is originated from that concept. Karma and reincarnation. Karma, a process in which justice is preserved. Whatever one does in his or her present life will determine the state of the soul in its rebirth. Karma, it is the origin of the saying, what goes around comes around. So, meaning, what you did will go back to you. And we have the reincarnation. It is closely linked to the karma and the primary goals of Hindu's life. Reincarnation is understood in the context of karma. While karma has something to do with how one will live in the future, reincarnation facilitates karma through a physical body where the soul resides. So, karma and reincarnation are distinct concepts in Hinduism, but they are interrelated. Because reincarnation is the rebirth of one person in a physical context. But the kind of life that you're going to live in your next life will determine in your karma, which means that what you did in your previous life, what are your actions, what are the actions that you did in your previous life will go back to you. The process of rebirth is not limited to the human body. It also takes its form in animals, which means that I remember one of the concepts or characteristics in Hinduism is that all living beings have soul, which means that karma and reincarnation can also be applied in animals. And if a human being um, had a bad reputation, bad actions, living a sinful life in his or her previous life, then there's a possibility that in his or her next life, uh, he will become, or he or she will become, an insect or an animal or lowest form of organism. Yoga, a way of salvation. Hindus believe that one can stop the cycle of rebirth if they know how to be liberated. That is, understanding Brahman and the true nature of Atman. This liberation from reincarnation is called moksha. State of liberation is acquired through the discipline of yoga. So, in Hinduism, they believe that life is a never-ending cycle. But you can break that cycle. You can stop the cycle of rebirth if you know how to liberate yourself. And the way of liberation is through the practice of yoga. The word yoga comes from the Sanskrit root word yuj, which means to yoke, unite, or control. In Hinduism, it refers to ascetical and meditative disciplines that lead to knowledge that cannot be accessed by ordinary human consciousness. Yoga is performed through meditation, just like what you can see in any media platform, like people practicing meditation or yoga. That's one of the practices originated in Hinduism. So it's not just the science. It's not just science. Meditation or yoga is not just science, but it is a part of religious practices in Hinduism. In the Gita, Krishna explains that the body is different from the self. He told Arjuna that when one kills his or her enemies, he or she is just destroying their bodies, not killing themselves. In Hinduism, they believe that we have a separate entity with our physical body and our true self, or our spirit, or soul. So if you destroy the physical aspect, physiological aspect of one person, you do not totally destroy that person. It's just the physical body of that person, not the true self of the person. The Gita also outlines 4 ways to attain liberation from the cycle of rebirths: the Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Raha Yoga. The Jnana Yoga, or the discipline of knowledge, is part of the Upanishad tradition. This knowledge translates to understanding the true nature of the Atman, which has the same qualities as those of Brahman. So, if one knows the Atman, he or she is considered wise, serene, and free of earthly desires. He or she fears nothing and is detached from worldly pursuits. Meaning, Jnana Yoga emphasizes the pursuit of spirituality, abstaining from oneself, of material things, worldly things. You need to deny the things that are not part of spiritual life. Next is the Karma Yoga, or the discipline of action. It requires the fulfillment of one's duties without expecting anything. One must only do his or her obligation for duty's sake. So, in Karma Yoga, it points out that as a supreme deity, he is responsible for the creation and maintenance of the cosmos. If he does not do his duty, the universe will cease to exist. This applies to everyone who has a specific duty to fulfill. Meaning, if you already find your purpose in life, your duties, responsibilities, and obligations, you need to perform them, as what the Karma Yoga emphasizes. And the Raha Yoga. It is a comprehensive method that emphasizes meditation while embracing yoga. And the Bhakti Yoga, or the way of devotion, is a third path. Unlike Jnana Yoga, the path of Bhakti Yoga is accessible to everyone, meaning any people can perform Bhakti Yoga or can access practices emphasized in Bhakti Yoga. And we have Ahimsa. Hinduism, with its teachings in the reincarnation, believe that all animals have a soul and hence should be considered as brothers and sisters. It advocates a nonviolent attitude to all creatures, which include the protection of all animals. In Ahimsa, Hinduism believe that animals have also souls and they should be treated as brothers and sisters, because they believe that there's possibility that those animals or creatures are the deceased family members reincarnated in the form of animals. And they have Dharma. For Hindus, Dharma, to perform one's duty, is the highest worldly aim. It is similar to learning and acquiring a virtue to help one to achieve liberation from suffering. Dharma comes from the Sanskrit root dri, which means to support, hold up, or bear. This refers to the teachings in Hinduism, the ones that the Hindus should perform, the duties that they need to adhere or uphold. In its modern definition, Dharma can be considered as that which makes a thing or being what it is. It is the essence of a thing, meaning the purpose, the ultimate purpose of a specific or particular thing. In Hinduism, Dharma is a central tenet with great religious and philosophical relevance. So in Hinduism, Dharma is not just part of their religious practices, but it's also a teaching that provides philosophical relevance in other fields or in other aspects. Hindu festivals and holidays. Hindus have more festivals and holidays than the number of days in a year. Just as they worship hundreds of deities, the same goes with their celebration of festivals, feasts, and holidays. Some scholars have identified around 1,000 Hindu festivals and holidays in a year. So, in Hinduism, they have a lot. They have myriad of festivals and holidays that Hindus performs, more than the days in a year. So, it's up to them what holidays or celebrations that they want to have a feast. Okay, we have Diwali, the Festival of Lights. It is a major holiday that is also celebrated by Buddhists, Jains, and Sikhs. It extends over 5 days and celebrates the victory of good or evil. There's Dussehra. This is the important 10th day of Navratri. Also Ganesha Chaturthi. Celebration of the birth of Ganesha, the son of Shiva. Festival may last 10 days or may be celebrated at home. Krishna Janmashtami. It is a 2-day festival celebrating the birth of Lord Krishna. And there's Holi, Festival of Colors, or the celebration of spring. And there's Mahashivratri. It is honoring the Lord Shiva. The celebration involves all-night worship the night before, fasting on the day, and prayer and vigil. And Raksha Bandhan, the bond of protection. It celebrates brotherhood and love. So, in Hinduism, the very reason why they have a myriad of festivals and holidays, it's because in their religion, they have a lot of deities, gods and goddesses. They have a lot of deities that they worship. That's why they have a lot of festivals or holidays assigned to each one of the deities, depending of the power or function of the deity, what kind of celebration that they're going to do. Then, interaction with other religions. Hinduism has always been characterized by its tolerance of other religions. In the beginning, it has the capacity to absorb all the gods and goddesses of tribes that entered India through its concept of Brahman, the supreme deity, who simply manifests through this myriad of gods and goddesses. So, Hindus are open to dialogue with other religions, share their beliefs and practices, especially with regard to yoga and meditation. They are very inclusive with other religions. Remember, one of their characteristics is that they believe that all religions that are divinely revealed to priests or prophets or sages are true. And Hinduism in world issues. For women, despite the great emphasis on patriarchy, India has produced a number of female gurus in modern times. The Hindu reform movements in the 19th and 20th century led to an appreciation of the role of women in spirituality. So, before, Hinduism valued patriarchy or the authority of male figure. But in the modern times, they welcome the female authorities that can perform rituals and sacrificial offerings or any forms of spirituality. So women can also perform what men can perform in Hinduism. And in poverty, today, India has become a global emerging market due to the influx of foreign investments, but it has remained poor by world standards despite intervention and aid from local and foreign organizations due to Hinduism, which still maintains the caste system in the country. So, caste system or the social stratification in India has a great effect to the economic system of India. Kasi, it's hard to go up to the social strata if they are still practicing the caste system, because once you are a member of a specific social group, then for the rest of your life you are a member of that specific social group. So it's hard to go up. But some other parts of India, they do not value caste system anymore. And that's the end of my discussion. I hope you learned something from our lesson. Thank you very much for watching.